Hello and welcome to Election Night 2016 from the Chaotic Mock Government Discord Government Simulator. The Republicans have nominated businessman Donald Trump from New York and the two-year incumbent governor of Arizona, Doug Ducey. The Democrats, however, had a very strange primary. It was originally thought Joe Biden was going to be the Democrat nominee after he defeated Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders in the primary. However, the DNC took over and instead nominated Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, who then went on to select Minnesota Senator Al Franken as her running mate. However, sadly, Al Franken passed away, and then Gabbard selected former Vice President Al Gore as her running mate. It is now 7 p.m. on the East Coast, and it's time for the following poll closings. Out of Indiana, Donald Trump will be the projected winner as he goes on to win this state by 25 points over Tulsi Gabbard. Big victory for Donald Trump, a massive shift to the right from 2018. And from Kentucky, Donald Trump will be the projected winner. No surprise here, as he will go on to win this state by around 35 points. Big victory for a Republican. Out of South Carolina, Donald Trump will be the projected winner. He will win this state by 20 points over Tulsi Gabbard. Out of Vermont, no surprise here, Tulsi Gabbard will be the projected winner. However, this is a very much of a rightward shift, as Tulsi will end up winning the state by 20 points. Losing more than just Essex County, she's losing 4 other counties along with the safe Republican county up in Vermont. And out of Georgia, it is currently too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard currently has a 12-point lead over Donald Trump in a solidly Republican state. Out of Virginia, too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard has quite a big lead over Donald Trump, 28 points if I'm not mistaken. And here is the current electoral map. Donald Trump has the electoral lead, 28-3. Out of Indiana, Senator race currently projected to go to Todd Young. He will succeed Dan Coats in the United States Senate as he defeats former U.S. Senator Evan Bayh by a much narrower margin than what we saw on the presidential level. Todd Young will win by 16 points over Evan Bayh. Out of Vermont Senate race, independent, the only independent senator in the United States Senate, Bernie Sanders will be the projected winner. He will win another term to the United States Senate, defeating Scott Milne by 22 points, outperforming Tulsi Gabbard. However, Tulsi did bring Bernie Sanders down quite a lot, as this is Bernie's worst electoral performance to date. And now here is the Senate composition. The Republicans led by Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer led by the Democrats. Republicans currently lead 21 seats to 12. You need 25 plus the vice presidency in order to win a majority. Out of the Indiana governor race, Mike Pence, who was considered to be Donald Trump's running mate at one point, but he was passed by Doug Ducey. Mike Pence will be the projected winner out of Indiana as he goes on to beat John Gregg by 17 points. Again, much narrower than the top of the ballot, but a bigger victory than Todd Young. Out of Vermont's governor race, a big win for the Republicans here tonight as the Republicans flip a safe blue seat, as Phil Scott will go on to defeat Sue Minter by 13 percentage points, winning all but just one county in the state of Vermont. It is now 7:30 p.m. poll closings, and the following states have poll closings. Out of West Virginia, Donald Trump will be the projected winner as he wins this solidly Republican state by 48 percentage points, a massive victory for the Republicans out of West Virginia on the presidential level. Out of North Carolina, a solid swing state. Tulsi Gabbard currently has a 16-point lead over Donald Trump. And out of Ohio, too close to call. Democrats have spent a lot of time here in the state of Ohio trying to keep it blue, and currently Tulsi Gabbard has a 10-point lead over Donald Trump. Out of Georgia, Donald Trump will be the projected winner. No surprise here. However, a lot more narrow than it has been in previous years, as Donald Trump will go on to win the state by 5 points. Out of Virginia, too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard, currently her lead has dropped to about 12 points over Donald Trump. And here's the current electoral map. Tulsi Gabbard hasn't gained any electoral votes. However, Donald Trump now leads 49-3. Out of Ohio Senate race, currently too close to call. Sherrod Brown, the former congressman, is currently leading incumbent Senator Rob Portman by 15 points. He is currently outperforming Tulsi Gabbard down ballots. And here's the current Senate composition. Republicans have 22 seats to the Democrats 13. Out of West Virginia, our Lord and Savior, Big Jim, has been elected to the governor's mansion in West Virginia, keeping it blue for another 4 years at least. Jim Justice will go on to defeat Bill Cole by around 12 percentage points, 11 to 12 percentage points. A big win for Jim Justice, considering the fact that Trump won the state by 48 points at the top of the ballot. As we also have Charlotte Pritt of the far left Mountain Party. She has gained 5% of the vote, most of that coming from Jim Justice. Out of North Carolina's governor race, currently too close to call, expected to be the most competitive governor race this cycle. Attorney General Roy Cooper has a 20-point lead over incumbent Pat McCrory. Out of 8 p.m., it is now 8 p.m., and the following states have poll closings. Out of Alabama, no surprise here, Donald Trump will be the projected winner out of this state as he goes on to defeat Tulsi Gabbard by 33 percentage points. Out of Maine's 2nd Congressional District, a flip after Obama had won this state by a likely margin, or this district by a likely margin just 4 years prior. Donald Trump will win it by a safe margin, double digits territory. Out of Mississippi, Democrats spent more time than they needed to in this state for some reason. They spent quite a bit of time, more so than other swing states, but it really doesn't have any effect as Donald Trump will go on to win the state by 23 points over Tulsi Gabbard, despite the amount of time spent here by Democrats. It is now Missouri, and Donald Trump will be the projected winner of this former bellwether state as he will go on to win it by 24 points over Tulsi Gabbard. It is now out of Oklahoma, Donald Trump will be the projected winner as he will win this state by roughly the same right there. Actually, I think there's a typo here, but we'll just ignore that. Out of Tennessee, Donald Trump will be the projected winner as he will go on to win this state by 27 percentage points over Tulsi Gabbard. Out of Washington, D.C., no surprise here, Tulsi Gabbard will be the projected winner, winning in a landslide. Out of Illinois, Tulsi Gabbard will win Barack Obama, the incumbent president's home state. She will win it by a very, very narrower margin than what we're used to expecting, Obama winning it by 20 points typically. But that's a typo. It's supposed to say Gabbard is at 54 and Trump's at 43. Gabbard winning the state by 11 points. Out of Maine's 1st Congressional District, Tulsi Gabbard will be the projected winner here. Out of Maryland, Tulsi Gabbard, the projected winner. She goes on to win the state by around 20 points over Donald Trump. Out of Massachusetts, Tulsi Gabbard will be the projected winner. And based off this county map, it looks like Donald Trump will become the first Republican since George H.W. Bush to win any single county out of Massachusetts. Mitt Romney couldn't even do that in 2012, and he was representing the state for the Republicans, but Gabbard will end up winning the state by around 21 points. Out of Connecticut, currently too close to call. This typically is a safe Democrat state, but it's becoming competitive now. Tulsi Gabbard has a 36-point lead over Donald Trump. Out of Delaware, too close to call. Probably a bunch of, pro-Biden people not turning out for Tulsi. That's probably what's going on here, but Tulsi currently has a 32-point lead over Donald Trump. Out of Florida, too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard has a 16-point lead over Donald Trump. Democrats trying to keep this seat, or trying to keep this state blue on the presidential level after Obama barely won it in 2012. Out of Maine, currently too close to call. We already called the 1st and 2nd district, but Tulsi Gabbard currently has a 30-point lead over Donald Trump. Out of New Hampshire, currently too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard has an 18-point lead over Donald Trump. A state that hasn't been campaigning too much this cycle. It's mostly been the Rust Belt. Out of New Jersey, too close to call. Another typical safe blue state now being competitive on the presidential level. Tulsi Gabbard has a 38-point lead over Donald Trump. Out of Pennsylvania, too close to call. A state that Republicans pretty much gave up on. There were reports that Donald Trump and the Republicans weren't targeting the state at all. They pretty much given up on it on the last stretch of the cycle. And Tulsi Gabbard has a massive lead over Donald Trump. This is mostly coming from the Philadelphia area. Out of Rhode Island, too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard has a 40-point lead over Donald Trump. Again, another typical safe blue state being competitive this cycle. And out of Ohio, the first flip, or I guess the second flip of the night, if you want to count Maine's 2nd district. But Ohio will be the first state to flip in either direction, despite Democrats spending a shit ton of time here in the state Donald Trump will still flip the state of Ohio nonetheless, as he goes on to defeat Tulsi Gabbard by 6 percentage points in the state of Ohio. Out of Virginia, maybe to make sure the wounds don't hurt as much, Tulsi Gabbard will win the state of Virginia, which has been shifting blue more and more. Tulsi will go on to win the state by around 4 percentage points over Donald Trump. Out of North Carolina, currently too close to call, still too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard's lead has dropped to about 6 points over Donald Trump. And here is the current electoral map. Donald Trump now has a lead of 111 electoral votes to Tulsi Gabbard's 61. Out of Connecticut Senate race, Richard Blumenthal will be re-elected to another term of the United States Senate as he goes on to defeat Dan Carter by 23 percentage points, a massive overperformance of what Tulsi Gabbard is currently doing in Connecticut. Out of Maryland Senate race, Chris Van Hollen will be re-elected to another term as he beats Kathy Cecilia, or however the fuck you pronounce that. He will pretty much be running even with Tulsi. Out of Mississippi, out of Missouri, Josh Hawley will flip this Senate seat. Many people thought it was going to be competitive. However, Donald Trump is carrying Josh Hawley over the finish line as he defeats Claire McCaskill by 10 percentage points. McCaskill, of course, still outperforming Tulsi by quite a bit. However, Josh Hawley will still win here at poll closings. Out of Florida Senate race is currently too close to call. Sebastian Rubio, not related to Marco Rubio anyway, is currently leading Jeb Bush by around 16 percentage points. A key Senate seat in the state of Florida, as this state is the most, talked about Senate race in the nation, as Democrats are trying to flip the Senate seat blue, and Republicans are trying to get Jeb over the finish line. Out of Pennsylvania Senate seat, too close to call. Bob Casey Sr. has a massive lead, a 79-point lead over incumbent Natalie Robertson, who has endorsed Tulsi Gabbard over Donald Trump. And typically it's not this way around. It's typically moderates breaking away from their party. It's the extremists, the right wing of the party, endorsing Bob Casey Sr., which is a strange thing to think about. Out of Ohio Senate race, currently too close to call. Sherrod Brown's lead has dropped to about 7 points over Rob Portman. Sherrod Brown still looks to be in good shape to potentially flip this Senate seat blue. And here's the current Senate composition. Democrats have 15 seats, so the Republicans 23. Remember, you need 25 plus the vice presidency, or 26 to win it outright. Out of Delaware's governor race, John Carney will be elected to his first term as governor, defeating Colin Bonini by 13 points, outperforming the top of the ballot. Tulsi Gabbard probably just not turning out Democrat voters as well as others are. And out of the Missouri governor race, Eric Greitens will flip this governor's mansion red as he will go on to defeat Missouri Attorney General Chris Koster. He will go on to defeat him by 12 points, shockingly outperforming Josh Hawley in the process. Out of New Hampshire's governor race, too close to call. Incumbent Maggie Hassan is currently leading Chris Sununu by 22 percentage points. Another contender to be the closest governor race in the country. It's either going to be this one or North Carolina. We'll just have to wait and find out. And speaking of North Carolina, it's currently too close to call still, as Roy Cooper's lead has dropped to about 15 points over Pat McCrory. It is now 8:30 p.m. We now have poll closings out of the state of Arkansas. And no surprise here, Arkansas will go to Donald Trump, as Donald Trump will win the state of Arkansas by around 32 points over Tulsi Gabbard. Out of Connecticut is projected to go to Tulsi Gabbard finally. Democrats were kind of sweating that Connecticut was a bit close, but Tulsi will end up winning the state by around 7 points over Donald Trump. Massive underperformance of previous Democrat nominee numbers. And speaking of underperformance of previous Democrat nominee numbers, out of Delaware, Tulsi Gabbard will be the projected winner out of this state, winning it by around 5 points over Donald Trump. Maybe it's all that anti-Biden or anti-Gabbard sentiment from the Biden crowd. That's probably what's going on here. Out of New Jersey, Tulsi Gabbard will be projected to win this state, as she will go on to win the state by around 8 points over Donald Trump. Again, underperforming previous Democrat nominees. Same thing here out of Rhode Island. Tulsi Gabbard will win this, close to a safe margin, but still it's a 9-point victory for Tulsi Gabbard nonetheless. Out of North Carolina, Donald Trump will be the projected winner as he goes on to keep this state red for another 4 years. At the very least, he goes on to defeat Tulsi Gabbard by 3 points in the end. Out of Florida, it is still too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard's lead has dropped to about 6 points as we keep getting more Republican numbers in. Out of Maine, too close to call still. Tulsi Gabbard's lead drops to about 14 points. Out of New Hampshire, too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard leads by around 12 points. Out of Pennsylvania, too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard now leads by 36 points as we get outside of Philadelphia. And here is the current electoral map. Donald Trump leads 132 electoral votes to Tulsi Gabbard's 89. And now we can make a big projection out of the state of Ohio in its Senate race. Rob Portman will be the projected winner in this state. If Democrats spent a little bit more time here, they could have ended up flipping this seat blue. However, Rob Portman will end up narrowly defeating Sherrod Brown, and I mean just barely, by like 1.3% in the end. Portman will be reelected over Sherrod Brown. And but at least they do get some, something out of Pennsylvania Senate race, as Bob Casey Jr. will end up defeating incumbent Natalie Robertson, flipping this seat blue in the process, as, a lot of the western Pennsylvania refused to turn out for Robertson. Casey will go on to defeat her by 5 percentage points in the end of the day. Out of Florida Senate race, still too close to call. Sebastian Rubio's lead has now dropped to about 6 points over Jeb Bush. And here's the current Senate composition. Republicans are now at 24, inching closer to a majority, as the Democrats have 16. They still have a long stretch to go. Out of New Hampshire's governor race, currently too close to call. Maggie Hassan now leads by around 15 points over Chris Sununu. Out of North Carolina's governor race, too close to call. Roy Cooper now has a 9-point lead over Pat McCrory. We are now in single-digit territory in this race. It is now 9 p.m. and the following states have poll closings. Out of Kansas, Donald Trump will be the projected winner, winning in the solid Republican state by around 26 percentage points. Out of Louisiana, Donald Trump, the projected winner. He gets the win here by around 25 in the end of the day. Out of Nebraska, Donald Trump will be the projected winner, winning all 5 electoral votes out of Nebraska by around 31 points. Big victory for Donald Trump here. Out of North Dakota, Donald Trump will be the projected winner, winning this state by around 41 points. Big victory. Plenty of white working class voters to win over. In South Dakota, Donald Trump will be the projected winner, winning this state by around 35 points. Out of Wyoming, Donald Trump will be the projected winner, winning this state by around 50 points, maxing out the rural areas and even suburban areas as well. Out of New York, Tulsi Gabbard will be the projected winner, as she will go on to win this state by probably the closest we'll see it in a long time. Tulsi ends up winning the state of New York by 16 points over Donald Trump. Out of Arizona, it is currently too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard has a 6-point lead over Donald Trump currently. Out of Colorado, it is currently too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard has a 22-point lead over Donald Trump. Out of Michigan, too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard has a 16-point lead over Donald Trump. Out of Minnesota, too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard has a 16-point lead here as well. Out of New Mexico, currently too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard has a 32-point lead over Donald Trump. Out of Texas, it is currently too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard has a 2-point lead over Donald Trump. Typically, we don't see this. Republicans typically have a lead straight at poll closings, but this one's a bit different. We'll just have to keep an eye on this. Out of Wisconsin, currently too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard has a 10-point lead over Donald Trump. And big news out of Florida, as Donald Trump will flip another state into his column. As he flips the state of Florida, he's a projected winner here. He will go on to defeat Tulsi Gabbard by an astounding 3 points, doing very well in the Panhandle as well as in rural Florida. Of course, he backpedals on suburban Florida, but he makes it up with Hispanics. Out of Maine, Tulsi Gabbard will be the projected winner here, as she will go on to win the state by around 4 points. Again, another, nail biter for Democrats. This is typically a safe Democrat state. Out of New Hampshire, speaking of Democrat states, Donald Trump will flip the state of New Hampshire into the Republican column for the first time since the year 2000. Big victory for Republicans, as Donald Trump wins the state by around 2 points over Tulsi Gabbard. I think it was a much bigger victory than Bush's 2000 victory, as he only won it by a tilt margin. Out of Pennsylvania, too close to call, Tulsi Gabbard's lead drops yet again to about 18 points over Donald Trump. And here is the current electoral map. Donald Trump has a lead of 193 electoral votes to Tulsi Gabbard's 120. Out of Arizona Senate race, John McCain will be the projected winner in Arizona Senate race. No surprise here. He's very popular as he goes on to defeat Ann Kirkpatrick by around 18 percentage points as the Green candidate, Gary Swing, takes a bit of her votes away as he is at 5%. As you can see, a massive victory for John McCain out of the state of Arizona. Out of North Dakota Senate race, John Hoeven will be projected to win another term of the United States Senate as he goes on to defeat Barry Glassheim by around 77%, or 67 points, 67 points over Barry Glassheim. And now, with that victory, we project the Republicans will take the majority in the United States Senate. They will keep it, and they're expected to make a lot of gains here tonight. I think it's only to continue to stockpile. Speaking of Democrats losing, out of the New York Senate race, Chuck Schumer will be the projected winner. Just ignore what I just said a second ago. Schumer will be reelected by a massive margin, very popular, as he defeats Wendy Long by around 16 points over her. Out of Wisconsin Senate race, currently too close to call. Russ Feingold, trying to get a seat back, is currently running against Ron Johnson, and Feingold has a 6-point lead over Johnson. Out of Florida Senate race, Jeb Bush will be the projected winner. Democrats and Republicans alike spent a lot, and I mean a lot, of time in this state. As you can see on the map here, it is pretty much an exact replica, except Rubio does do better in the Panhandle than Gabbard did, and Bush does better in the suburbs than Trump did, though it's a very similar map. And here is the current Senate composition. Republicans at 27 seats to the Democrats 17. Republicans have crossed the finish line. No matter what, they will have the Senate majority again. Out of North Dakota's governor race, Doug Burgum will be projected to win his first term in the United States Senate, or as governor, as he goes on to defeat Ben Nelson by around 63 percentage points, if I'm not mistaken. Out of North Carolina's governor race, currently too close to call. Roy Cooper currently has a 3-point lead over Pat McCrory. This race is now going down the wire as expected. It is now 10 p.m. and the following states have poll closings. Out of Montana, Donald Trump will be the projected winner out of this solidly Republican state, as he will go on to win by around 26 percentage points over Tulsi Gabbard. Out of Utah, Donald Trump will be the projected winner as he goes on to defeat Tulsi Gabbard by around 23 percentage points. Or 24. Out of Iowa, currently too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard currently has a 4-point lead over Donald Trump, though we expect that lead to disappear quickly. Out of Nevada, too close to call. Donald Trump has a big lead over Tulsi Gabbard. He has a 16-point lead over Gabbard in the state of Nevada, which counts Republican voters, the rural voters, faster or earlier than they do urban areas and suburban areas. Out of Arizona, we can now project that Donald Trump will win his running mate's home state. He will win Doug Ducey's home state, that being Arizona, as Donald Trump will end up winning the state by around 8 points over Tulsi Gabbard. Out of New Mexico, Tulsi Gabbard will win this state. She will go on to defeat Donald Trump by around 5 points over him. A, solidly likely Democrat state, not changing tonight. Out of Texas, a lot closer than it typically is. Mitt Romney won it by like 12 or 13 4 years ago. Now Donald Trump will end up winning the state of Texas by around 9 percentage points as he backpedals with suburban voters in the state. And a big victory out of Wisconsin as Republicans will flip the state with Donald Trump. A big victory at the end of the day as he will go on to defeat Tulsi Gabbard by around 5 percentage points, winning over a lot of white working class voters in the process that turned out for Obama, but won't turn out for Tulsi. Out of Colorado, currently too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard has a 12-point lead over Donald Trump, currently. Out of Michigan, currently too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard's lead drops to about 7 points over Donald Trump. Out of Minnesota, Tulsi Gabbard has a 16-point lead over Donald Trump. Out of Pennsylvania, too close to call. Tulsi's lead drops to about 10 points. And here is the current electoral map as of right now. Donald Trump inching closer to the 270 electoral vote count as Tulsi Gabbard is at 125. Out of Utah, Mike Lee will be re-elected to another term of the United States Senate, defeating Misty Snow by about 27 or 47 points over Snow. And Nevada Senator is currently too close to call. Joe Heck currently has a 15-point lead over Catherine Cortez Masto. Out of Wisconsin Senate race, Ron Johnson will be the projected winner. He will keep the Senate seat red. After we projected Trump's victory, this one seemed, obvious. But Johnson will outperform by around 4 points. He will do worse with white working class voters, but he will do better with suburban voters. So Johnson will end up beating Feingold by around 9 percentage points. And here's the current Senate composition. Republicans only need one more seat to have a filibuster-proof majority. They need 30 seats to get that, but they're currently at 29 seats to the Democrats' 17. Out of Utah's governor race, Gary Herbert will be re-elected to another term as governor as he goes on to defeat Miro Weinholtz by quite a bit. Out of Montana's governor race, currently too close to call, incumbent Steve Bullock is in the race of his life as he goes off against reporter body slammer Greg Gianforte. That's how you do a thing. Steve Bullock is leading by 18 points over Gianforte. Out of New Hampshire's governor race, you now have updates over there as Maggie Hassan has a 7-point lead over Chris Sununu. Out of North Carolina, too close to call, getting closer and closer as Roy Cooper has a 2-point lead over Pat McCrory. It is now 11 p.m. and the following states have poll closings. Out of California, no surprise here, Tulsi Gabbard will be the projected winner as she does something that Obama couldn't. She's actually winning Orange County and San Bernardino County and, surrounding counties along with it. As, of course, Donald Trump backpedaling with all those suburban voters. Comedy comes in threes. As, of course, Tulsi Gabbard currently leading by around 24 points. She will end up winning by 24, Out of Hawaii, Tulsi Gabbard will obviously win her home state, as she goes on to win it by around 24 points as well. Out of Idaho, Donald Trump will unsurprisingly win this state, as he goes on to defeat Tulsi Gabbard by around 37 points. Out of Oregon, more safe blue states becoming competitive. Tulsi Gabbard is currently expected to be in a competitive race here in Oregon, as she leads by around 32 points over Donald Trump. Out of Washington, too close to call, Tulsi Gabbard has a 40-point lead over Donald Trump. We're a bit hesitant to call this right now, but just trust us on it. Out of Michigan, another big victory for Donald Trump and the Republicans as he flips the state red. Donald Trump will end up defeating Tulsi Gabbard by around 2 percentage points in the state of Michigan. And with that victory, we can say that Donald Trump will be elected as the 45th President of the United States, defeating Tulsi Gabbard. Democrats were divided. They didn't see a reason to come out, especially with the disaster that was the DNC this year, and I really don't blame them. Donald Trump will be elected the next President of the United States. Here's the current electoral map. Look at that number, 281, 281. Tulsi Gabbard's only at 184. She's out of the race. So, anything past this that Trump wins is just icing on the cake. Speaking of icing on the cake, out of Minnesota, Donald Trump will be the projected winner in the state of Minnesota that has not flipped since Nixon. The Rust Belt hasn't flipped since, Reagan and Bush, so on and so forth. But Minnesota hasn't gone blue since Nixon's landslide victory of 72. So Donald Trump has a big victory out of Minnesota as he wins up winning the state by around 2 percentage points. Out of Iowa, Donald Trump will flip this state that hasn't flipped since 2004. Donald Trump wins the state of Iowa. He will go on to win it by 8 points over Tulsi Gabbard. Out of Colorado, too close to call, Tulsi Gabbard has a 7-point lead over Donald Trump as of right now. Out of Pennsylvania, too close to call. It's a nail-biter here, folks. Can Republicans win the state of Pennsylvania, even though they gave up on it in the last weeks of the campaign? Tulsi Gabbard has a 1-point lead over Donald Trump. Out of Nevada, too close to call, Donald Trump currently has an 8-point lead over Tulsi Gabbard. And here is the current electoral map. Donald Trump only gaining electoral votes as we go on. Donald Trump's at 297 electoral votes to Tulsi Gabbard's 184. Out of Hawaii Senate race, Mazi Hirono will be reelected to another term in the United States Senate, defeating John Carroll by quite a big margin. Out of Washington Senate race, Patty Murray will be reelected to another term, defeating Chris Vance. Outperforming Tulsi Gabbard, Murray will end up winning this state by around 12 points over Vance. Out of California Senate race, do not adjust your screens, folks. That is legitimately Monica Lewinsky, the girl who sucked off Bill Clinton. She's running for Senate for some reason, and she's leading Attorney General Kamala Harris by 10 points. It's an emergency. Hit the red button. Out of Nevada Senate race, currently too close to call still. Joe Heck now has a 6-point lead over his opponent, Catherine Cortez Masto. And here is the current numbers out of the Senate composition. The Republicans have 29 seats to the Democrats 19. Out of Oregon's governor race, currently too close to call. Kate Brown, who's very unpopular by the way, currently has a 26-point lead over Bud Pierce. Out of Washington's governor race, Jay Inslee, who is running to become a governor, is currently leading Seattle Port Commissioner Bill Bryant by 28 points. Out of Montana's governor race is currently too close to call. Sorry if you hear that, the dogs are scratching on a glass door and it's making me cringe. Steve Bullock currently has an 8-point lead over Greg Gianforte. Out of New Hampshire's governor race, currently too close to call. This one's now going down the wire. Maggie Hassan has a 2-point lead over Chris Sununu. Out of North Carolina's governor race, too close to call. Cooper's lead now has dropped to about 1% over Pat McCrory. It is now 1 a.m. and the final state has their polls closing, and that is Alaska. And dadgummit, it's too close to call. Tulsi Gabbard currently has a 4-point lead over Donald Trump, which is surprising because this is a safe Republican state and Tulsi Gabbard should not be anywhere close to making this state competitive, but she is. And we can make a call out of Oregon as Tulsi Gabbard will be the projected winner out of this typically safe blue state. However, she's only going to be winning it by 5. That's what happens when you rig your DNC. Speaking of Washington, Tulsi Gabbard will be the projected winner out of this state as well, however, by not as much of an embarrassing margin, as she will go on to win by 9 points over Donald Trump. And hey, look at that! Donald Trump was only getting more icing on the cake. Donald Trump will be the projected winner of the state of Nevada, as he will be the first Republican to win this since George W. Bush in 2004. As he goes on to win this state by around 2 points over Tulsi Gabbard, winning Washoe County in the process. Out of Colorado, currently too close to call, Tulsi Gabbard has a 2-point lead over Donald Trump. When Republicans gave up on Pennsylvania, Democrats had long given up on this state. Out of Pennsylvania, speaking of, it is currently too close to call as a statistical tie between the two candidates. And here is the current electoral map, only 3 states left to call. Donald Trump has 303 electoral votes, to Tulsi Gabbard's 203 electoral votes, a 100 electoral vote difference. 3 states left to call. And out of California Senate race, for some reason, Monica Lewinsky is being elected to the United States Senate. Don't ask me why, but it's happening. And she will end up defeating Kamala Harris by around 8 percentage points at the end of the day, winning most of the counties, most of which being Republican counties, because Kamala Harris is awful. Out of Nevada Senate race, this is music to Republicans' ears. Joe Heck will be elected to the United States Senate, defeating Catherine Cortez Masto in the process, flipping Harry Reid's seat, potentially destroying the Reid machine? Potentially. Joe Heck will be elected to the United States Senate, and he will end up defeating Masto by narrowly 1 percentage point. And with that, Republicans will gain a filibuster-proof majority, defeating Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. All seats have been called. Out of Montana's governor race, Greg Gianforte will be elected as governor of Montana, despite body slamming the hell out of that reporter, which probably happened in 2017, but we'll just ignore that. Greg Gianforte defeats Steve Bullock by around 1.7% at the end of the day. Out of New Hampshire's governor race, Maggie Hassan currently has a 1-point lead over Chris Sununu. Out of Oregon's governor race, currently too close to call, Kate Brown's lead has now dropped to about 6 points over Bud Pierce. Out of Washington's governor race, currently too close to call, Jay Inslee has a 8-point lead over Bill Bryant. It is now 1:15 a.m. We can now make a call out of Alaska. Donald Trump will win this, we assume, Republican state. Maybe it's trending to the left. We'll just have to wait. But Donald Trump has won the state by around 8 points over Tulsi Gabbard. It is now 1:30 a.m. We can now make a projection out of the state of Pennsylvania, despite giving up on it in the last weeks of the campaign. Maybe they shouldn't have, because Donald Trump will end up winning the state by a very narrow margin, by around 0.8%, by a tilt margin. He will go on to defeat Tulsi Gabbard in the state of Pennsylvania, first time since Bush Sr. It is now 1:45 a.m. We can now make a call out of Colorado. Tulsi Gabbard will be the projected winner out of the state that has been shifting to the left massively, as Tulsi Gabbard will win the state by around 0.3%. I bet none of you thought Colorado was going to be the closest state this cycle. Nobody. Guarantee it. And here is the final electoral map. Donald Trump and Doug Ducey has 326 electoral votes. Tulsi Gabbard and Al Gore has 212. It is now 2 a.m. We can now make a call out of New Hampshire's governor race. Chris Sununu will flip this governor's mansion to the Republicans, as he will go on to defeat Maggie Hassan by a very narrow margin, by 0.4%. Sorry if you hear my dogs barking, they're retarded. It is now 2:15 a.m. We can now make a call out of North Carolina's governor race. Pat McCrory will be the projected winner, narrowly beating out Roy Cooper by around 0.2%. Very, very, very close out of North Carolina. Cooper was just right there. So close. Maybe he can give it another go in 2020. It is now 2:30 a.m. We can now make a call out of the state of Oregon. Out of Oregon's governor race, Kate Brown will be elected to her first half term, I guess, as she will go on to defeat Bud Pierce by 2%. I don't even know if this is her fault or not. Tulsi Gabbard performed so poorly here. It is now 2:45 a.m. We can make our final call of the night. That's a lie, by the way. Out of Washington's governor race, Jay Inslee will be elected to his first term as governor, defeating Bill Bryant by 3 percentage points in the state of Washington. Bill Bryant was a very strong candidate, so was Jay Inslee. However, the Seattle vote, which, had elected Bill Bryant previously, typically had higher Republican votes than normal. And here's the final Senate composition. As we already talked about, the Republicans have a supermajority in the United States Senate, 30 seats to 20 seats. And we can now project, give me a second. Sorry about that. We can now project the House majority will stay with the Republicans this cycle. However, they're gaining seats somehow, even though they already have like 240 seats. They now have 263 seats, as they continue to win seats in their direction. And here is the House map on your screen. Now, as you can see, a lot of red over the nation. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're interested, go check out the Khaotic Mock Government Discord server. It's a government simulation. It's in the description below. We're always looking for new members, regardless if you're Republican, Democrat, whatever. Go check us out. This is the Khaotic One saying, peace.